When you talk to Nightmare fans about the movies, it's very rare that a Nightmare on Elm Street 4 Dream Master comes up in discussion. I don't know why, but I've always loved it. Freddy was just awesome in it, spouting out more one-liners than all of the previous movies.
I'll see you in hell.
Tell him Freddy sent you.
The film starts off with Freddy killing all the surviving Elm Street kids from the last movie. We see Kristen, who is in the last movie with her boyfriend, and her best friend, who is her boyfriend's sister. In this film, you think it's all going to be about Kristen from the Dream Warriors, until she dies 20 minutes into the film. Her power in the previous film was to pull people into her dreams. She accidentally pulls in Alice, who's her best friend. When Freddy kills Kristen, her power transforms to Alice, whereas her soul transforms to Freddy. Then she wakes up and she can now pull people into her dream. I have to say, the Kincaid and Kristen deaths seemed a little bit like they were trying to make them like the first film. Joey's death is not just the best death out of the 3 survivors, but it's the best death in the entire film. I don't want to ruin anything, all I can say is waterbed. So of course no one believes Alice, like no one believes Nancy in the first film, and no one believes the gay kid in the second film. There is one scene where a girl with asthma gets pulled into Alice's dream in the middle of an exam. The teacher turns into Freddy and goes over to the girl and sucks all the air out of her lungs. She then dies in the real world after a supposed asthma attack. It then becomes apparent that Freddy doesn't want to kill Alice because she keeps accidentally pulling victims to him. Alice's brother is a karate expert, and in his death he has to fight an invisible Freddy. He ends up knocking off Freddy's glove and he then gets stabbed by it. After her brother dies, Alice teams up with a guy called Dan, who she has a crush on and who was one of her brother's best friends. In Alice's dream, she goes to the cinema and ends up getting sucked into the film. She then finds Freddy and accidentally sends him to a girl named Debbie, who is the only one of her friends left. Alice goes over to Dan so they can try and help Debbie. Freddy then traps them in a time loop so they can't stop Freddy from killing Debbie. Freddy turns Debbie into a cockroach, traps her in a roach motel, and eventually crushes her. Then he gets in the way of the truck, so Alice and Dan crash. Dan gets badly injured, so they have to go to the hospital in the real world. They eventually have to put him under, so Alice goes home and goes to sleep to try and save Dan. Dan ends up getting injured, so the doctors have to wake him up. Then it's just Alice and Freddy fighting at the end. She then recites a bit of a poem that she was told was a kid. It's something like, "Evil dies when it sees itself," something like that. So she shows Freddy himself in a reflection and Freddy dies. The death scene is actually pretty awesome, probably one of my favourite Freddy deaths in the entire series. Then all the souls Freddy has absorbed are released. Then later on we see Alice and Dan at the park, and in a fountain they see a reflection of Freddy and they just shrug it off and walk away. This really pissed me off because it just made no sense at all. Anyway, Dream Master is an enjoyable movie. It has plenty of Freddy in it, so it's probably the reason why Robert Englund gets top bill for the first time in any of the films. This is a Freddy film that you should definitely watch if you're a fan of the series.